The game of the night, Monica, the Knicks, whom you cover on a regular basis. They had won 5 straight heading into their home date with the Celtics last night. And for Jason Tatum, this was an indication of the kind of night it was going to be.
Absolutely. Mitchell Robinson in his 3rd game back, coming back from a foot injury. He made his presence felt in a real way throughout this basketball game.
Things off to a good start for New York, and it would stay that way. There's Mitchell Robinson off the alley-oop from R.J. Barrett. Knicks up 14 at the half. 3rd quarter, more from the Knicks. Julius Randle playing well, and he's finding Emmanuel Quickly.
Emmanuel Quickly is in that 6-man conversation, and he should be. He does a great job of finding the gap so that his teammates can locate him for those jumpers.
He had 23 last night. Now here's Jason Tatum throwing it down, but he's not happy he didn't get a call.
Tisk, Greeny. Not only was Tatum frustrated by the Knicks' defense, overall I think he was frustrated with what he was able to get done.
Yeah, which was not very much. Tatum 6 of 18 on the night, and his night would end early after Josh Hart knocks down that 3. Look at Tatum. He's barking, and he's finished. He's down for the night, and the Knicks win their 6th consecutive game, 109-94. The only team in the NBA right now with a longer active win streak is Milwaukee. The Bucks have won 14 in a row. Knicks will try and make it 7 straight as they host the Nets at MSG tomorrow night. So that's where it begins on the court. But the news off the court yesterday was candidly just terrible. The biggest story in the league. The Lakers fear they could be without LeBron James for some significant period of time because of the foot injury he suffered in the 3rd quarter Sunday against Dallas. I remember that he popped up and finished this game, and Monica, you were here with me yesterday, and we thought, wow, it appears as though they have dodged a bullet. Well, maybe that is not quite the case. Here's the man who knows all. Woj is up with us early this morning. Woj, for those who've not seen your reporting, what is the latest on LeBron?
Greeny, the fear is that LeBron James could miss several weeks with this right foot injury that he suffered Sunday against Dallas. More testing, more evaluation, certainly as soon as today on LeBron James. But, with just weeks left in the season, a Laker team that is still trailing 10th place in the West, the final play-in spot by a game, there is concern that James may be out several weeks. And even with a Laker team that has, according to ESPN's analytics, the easiest remaining schedule, certainly an uphill climb to get into the postseason, and uncertainty about not only when LeBron James might be able to return this season, but if he'll be able to return. I think there'll be a clear view on the extent of the injury and a potential timeline here shortly, Greeny. But the fear is LeBron James will be out several weeks.
Brutal, right? I mean, Monica, I don't really have a better word than that, right? Just brutal. I mean, it appears it's almost bringing you to tears.
It makes me emotional.
She's got a little contact issue. But I mean, you and I talked about it yesterday.
Yep.
The entire basketball world holding its breath as he was saying he thought he heard a pop. And then it seemed everything was okay, but then he's limping, and now this.
This is the nightmare when it comes to the Lakers. As much as we marvel at what LeBron has been able to do over 20 years of his career, time and Father Time is still to some degree undefeated. And any of us that have battled any sort of foot injury, even if it is at a minimum a plantar fasciitis bit, that's something that you just cannot play on. And there's only several weeks left in the season, to echo what Woj said. Now, for me, I hadn't jumped into this team being in the 6th seed. Do I think this is a team that still can make a push and be in that play-in? Yes, but obviously this is a devastating industry.
I had jumped. I had jumped. You know me.
Did.
I fall easy. I fall in love very easily. Woj knows. He was making fun of me all weekend long as I was doing all the mathematical probabilities. Woj was looking at me, 17-5. That's the way, because I saw it. I mean, they looked like they were putting something together. And LeBron, quite candidly, let's just have a moment. Woj just said it's if, not when, he comes back this year. If his season is over, I don't know that everyone appreciates, because their record is not very good. The unprecedented greatness. At the age of 38, he has had the greatest season relative to his age of any player of all time.
He has absolutely been tremendous, Greeny. But I think what we've seen happen in the past 2 seasons when it comes to LeBron is we are unable to connect his greatness to a team that has not performed well. When you look at the standings, we are accustomed to LeBron in the postseason. We are accustomed to LeBron teams making deep runs. And so there's been this disconnect of sorts. I mean, you even think to him breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record this year, and the kind of awkwardness that surrounded that particular day. So individually, there is no doubt how great LeBron is. He continues to push the needle and move the standard in terms of what greatness can look like in our league. But it is still a team sport, and so I think we wrestle with kind of connecting the two, particularly for a storied franchise like the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, look, I mean, the season isn't good enough. No one is questioning that, but LeBron is not the one to blame. Again, whoa, just a final word, however you want to put a ribbon on this. Again, you told us that we should expect some news on this perhaps as soon as today.
That's right, Greeny, a clear timeline, but Monica said it. Since he's turned 38 years old, nearly 32 points a game, 9 rebounds, 7.5 assists in the 20 games since LeBron James turned 38.
We are back on Get Up. Another great game in the NBA last night. We showed you Knicks Celtics. How about Heat Sixers? Joel Embiid having a monster year. Monica McNutt, Sixers down in the fourth quarter, but Embiid bringing them back.
I mean, this is the guy that Kendrick Perkins is giving the MVP award to.
He's been a backup, or excuse me, the runner-up for that the last 2 years. Look at him here staring everybody down and knocking that down. They've been down by 11. That made it a 1-point game. Minute and a half to go. Miami now trailing, but look at Jimmy Butler. The acrobatic layup.
Ooh, Jordan-esque. I mean, just a magician at the rim. Beautiful backspin using the glass.
Jimmy G buckets. The G stands for gets. Now 30 seconds left. Oh, Bam Adebayo with the block.
I mean, defense wins games, so they say. This was a really terrific showing for the Miami Heat.
Here's the final second. Sixers down 2. Who's going to get the shot? James Harden for the win. No good. And the Sixers fall in a tight one at home again. Back-to-back tough losses for Philly at home. That game against Boston on Saturday night. And now this. And so you take a look at the setup here at the top of the Eastern Conference. The Bucks have actually moved ahead of Boston by just percentage points into the 1 seed for the moment in the East. Although, according to our analytics, the Celtics still have a very slight edge at getting that 1 seed. And then a bit of a step down, you have Philadelphia. So again, Monica's with us this morning, and so is Zach Lowe of the Lowe Post podcast and everything else. So, Zach, here's the way I want to phrase the question this morning. It came up in our production meeting today. When we look at the top of the East, do you see a big 2 or a big 3 at the top of the Eastern Conference?
I still think there's a big 2, and Philly has the potential to play with those big 2 and push those big 2 and even beat them 4 and 7, but their margin of error is lower, their benefit of the doubt is lower, and what their best players have to prove in the playoffs is bigger. So I'm still going big 2, as much respect as I have for Philly and Cleveland and the frisky New York Knicks.
Ooh, Zach, look what you did there.
The winners of 6 in a row. We showed that at the beginning. Monica, the same to you. With the Boston and Milwaukee, and then you've got the Sixers. It's always so close. I said yesterday, I feel for Embiid because he's just always not quite there. And do they have enough? Because I think there's a lot of pressure on them to get it done this year.
I mean, I think anything can happen, but as we go into the postseason, I agree with Zach. There's a big 2, and I don't need to get into the numbers in terms of who puts the most pressure on the rim and defense. And Philly has been terrific this year. They've had some head scratchers, but most teams are prone to some of those at points in the season. To me, I continue to go back to past behavior being the best indicator of future success. And Philly, for whatever reason, when the clock strikes midnight, aka after April 9th, I believe,
yes,
they seem to have discombobulations of many numbers for whatever reason. And so this is a tremendous year. Yesterday, we bring up that question about pressure, right? Mm-hmm. To me, this is the best Philly team we've seen going into the postseason in, I don't know, at least 3 seasons for sure, in terms of them being healthy, having continuity, guys have been on the floor. The pressure is on because this is the group that is in the best position to contend with those 2 teams.
No, I agree. I mean, it's distributed. Embiid and Harden and the GM Daryl Morey and the coach Doc Rivers. A lot of pressure there. Before I move on to other things, we opened the show showing you the latest from LeBron James. Woj saying that it's not a question of when he comes back this season, but if he comes back this season. Feared to be out several weeks with the injury to the right foot. Zach, we've not yet gotten a thought from you on this. Obviously, a devastating news for a Laker team that looked like it was finally headed in the right direction. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's no sugarcoating this. The Lakers cannot withstand a prolonged LeBron James injury. They have nobody who can replace him. They have nobody who can do what he does. If it's really if, not when, if it's really weeks, if it's really most of the season, we can probably put a pin in all our Lakers conversations until the offseason and to discuss about, how they're going to remake the team around LeBron and AD presumably next season, because this season will be over for them if he's out for a long time.
I think that's right. I literally just jumped on the bandwagon, and now I have to jump right back off. I was on the bandwagon for a combined total of 1 day, but it was a delight while it lasted.
It was a big jump too, Greeny.
It was a delight while I was there. Okay, did you all see Charles yesterday? Charles Barkley on First Take, one-on-one with Stephen A., a half hour of the two of them going back and forth. And among the interesting things he says is that he is not a particular fan of the commissioner's latest response to the issue of load management in the NBA. Here's Charles.
I think he kind of went overboard trying to take care of the players. He's trying to do everything possible to get his guys rest. But you can't make $30, $40, $50 million and then sit out games. I think it's disrespectful to the game. I think it's disrespectful to the fans. We're going to have guys making $70, $80 million a year. And you can't play basketball 3 or 4 days a week? I mean, listen, it ain't like we should working in a steel mill, brother.
That was Charles yesterday. This has been obviously a hot button topic in a lot of places. I wanted everyone to hear this is Charles's perspective and get a quick thought from both of you. Again, Monica, what did you think?
I will admit, I have been one that has been reticent to acknowledge that there's an issue. I kind of think the toothpaste is out of the tube, so to speak, and this is where we are in terms of mentality. But the more frequent it becomes and the GS on the box score, which is general soreness, like who's not generally sore even if you're not an athlete? And so I would agree that there's something that needs to be addressed. How we go about addressing it, I'm not sure. I know folks have tossed out should the revenue that players make, should their money be tied to their games? I don't know if it's that simple, but it is something that needs to be explored.
Zach, we hear about this from you, of course, on the podcast and everything else. For the audience that has not heard your perspective, what do you think of that and what Charles said?
Yeah, first I would like to report no soreness today for me, but I have not shoveled the snow yet, so perhaps I will be sore generally later. Look, I think Charles is right that this is a problem, but I think in a lot of cases, and probably the majority of cases, he's blaming the wrong people. This is a sports science thing. This is a front office thing and team management thing. They are dictating these decisions in a majority of the cases. There are some players who are dictating the decisions on their own for whatever reason, and that's a totally isolated different thing. In a lot of cases, it's teams, and I think the league has to have a very hard conversation with its teams, with its governors about, is this right? Are we overdoing this? And should the season be 10 games shorter so that everybody plays in a majority of the games and we don't have fans go and say, wait a second, I thought I was seeing Giannis and Jokic and nobody's here. What's going on?
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.